Hello and welcome to the excuse me, welcome to the Analog Toys live stream. And I'm joined today by two very special guests. I have with me today Paddy and Brian, who is so Paddy, you are the writer of a new Action Force book called Total Action Force: The Battle Years, and Brian is the photographer, graphic artist. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you guys ever so much for joining me, particularly at this time slot. It's obviously difficult with the time zones. I know it's very late where you guys are, so thank you so much for being here, and let's have a fun chat about Action Force.
For sure. Thanks so much for having us on, and it's great to be here.
No, absolute pleasure, guys. It's a book I'm quite excited about. Obviously, I did some work to help promote the last collecting guide that came from the Blood for the Baron. But your book is it's taking a bit of a unique angle. You want to talk a little bit about the book itself?
Well, it's I suppose what makes ours a little bit different from Jim Marshall's book, and Jim's book is great, by the way. It's it's a great resource if you're a collector and you're trying to find all those different kind of parts and accessories to go with your Action Force figures. Our book is maybe trying to step back a little bit and look at that bigger Action Force story, and it's to tell a more complete story of Action Force from its initial inception, how it evolved into this what we would call collectors call Series 2 Action Force, and its association with the comic Battle Action Force, which obviously in our side of the world, it was a key content marketing tool to help sell the toys. So we wouldn't have had the cartoons that would have been very popular over in the States, for example, with G.I. Joe. Action Force did rely entirely on the comic Battle to kind of bring its characters and its whole mythology to life.
Yeah, and that's I decided to pick one of my favorite Battle Action Force covers here. We've got Baron Ironblood on the cover to have that on the table. Yeah, so that's to me is what makes it very unique and very different to Jim Marshall's book, which, as you said, is a fantastic book. I've got the first edition of that book. But this one really it covers a lot of the Battle Action Force comics. And am I correct in saying you've also interviewed some of the original writers and artists from the comic?
So, well, unfortunately, a huge amount of the creative talent that worked on the comic have passed away and that's actually one of the first things we did in our research was to build up a database of all the writers and all the artists associated with Action Force for its run with Battle, which was between 1983 and 1986. And when you first look at that list, there's so many writers and so many artists, and they're all among the best in class for British comics at that time. But today, most of them have passed away because for a lot of them, they were very late in their career when they worked on Action Force. But on a more positive note, there still are many of those writers and artists still alive and still active, still working professionally. So another writer who's working with us in the book, David MacDonald, and David runs a micro publishing company, and he's done a lot of work with Rebellion over the last few years. So David is talking directly to as many of the surviving writers and artists as possible to get their first-hand accounts from the comic side of things. So that includes people like Robin Smith, for example, who illustrated some fantastic covers for the comic Battle during that 3-year run. Gary Leach, who did the fantastic adverts for the Series 3 figures like Destro, the Night Attack Jeep, Zartan, the Sky Striker, the Cobra Claw. So if some people might remember those ads. I mean, they were really beautifully illustrated, and they were first printed in 3D, and you got a pair of 3D glasses with the comics that you could see them properly. And then on the writing side of it, again, there's a number of writers who are still alive today, and they have, they've been very gracious enough to let David interview them in the past, and they've been very forthcoming about their careers. So it'll be working with those people to kind of get that full and complete comic side of the story. And then obviously on the Palatoy side of the story, Paddy has been very hard at work talking to a lot of the former Palatoy staff.
Yeah, and Paddy, you've obviously written your treatment for the book. How long has that process taken?
We kind of started working on it we've been planning it towards the kind of last couple of months of last year, and then in January this year, I really started doing all the research and reaching out to the people for interviews. So it's still ongoing, obviously. So it's been about 8 months so far in terms of planning and writing for the book.
That's a very similar time frame to when I was writing the script for my Story of Action Man documentary. I think I spent probably around 6 months writing the script and sending it back and forward to Bob Breakin for for approvals, but that didn't include the interviews. I traveled to the UK and obviously filmed all of those, and it's good. You haven't got to write a script for that. You just end up with the footage of what people say, and then you've got to edit it. But so this is not your first book publishing project, is that correct?
No, this is number 3 of the books that we've worked on. So myself and Paddy, we were actually talking about this just the other night, how we kind of first met. It was on another podcast. We're going back maybe 2013, and Paddy had written in just a letter, and it was read out on the show, and they said it's from Paddy, a listener in Ireland. And so I went onto the show's Facebook feed, and I found some posts where Paddy had commented, and I sent him a direct message through Facebook and introduced myself and said, look, I've got an idea for, a very vague idea for a G.I. Joe book. Would you be interested in working with me on it? And, I was a total stranger off the internet, filling out the blue. You normally say no to those kind of people, but Paddy was very willing to meet up and discuss the project. So our very first book was produced at Total Retaliation, which looked at the Retaliation toy line. So it features all the figures, all the vehicles associated with that particular movie. And at the time, they were some of the best 4-inch figures that Hasbro had produced for G.I. Joe.
Very nice. We've got a super chat here from Jim Largo. Thank you very much, Jim. He said, thanks, Tony, for letting everyone know about this Action Force book. It looks awesome. I've already made my pledge. Oh, that's awesome, Jim. And for anyone else who, and I'm going to keep plugging this as we go along, for anyone else who's interested in securing their own copy of the book, the link to the Kickstarter is in the description of this video below. So how long has the Kickstarter got left? It's a week Friday?
We're about 11 days left as of now. So we're actually doing. I think we're quite happy with how we've done so far. We're well over halfway funded, and fingers crossed we're going to knock down 1 or 2 of those stretch goals as well, because there's some really exciting stuff in there too. So it's for Kickstarters are funny. The majority of the money's made in the first 2 days and in the last 2 days. As you have people jumping straight away to back it, and then towards the end they're like, "Oh, I forgot about this. I have to back it." So you have this kind of long kind of rule in the middle, where you might get a pledge a day, and then or maybe someone ups a pledge to the next level and sort of stuff. So, but if you have a good first couple of days, you generally are okay to fund, and I think we will be. I do think we will get funded. We're pretty confident that we will, being well over halfway already. So that's always nice to, fingers crossed. But it's kind of a good place to be in, I think, where we are at the moment.
Yeah. It's almost like when you're paying your phone bill. My phone bill is normally due on the 15th of the month, so I literally pay it on the 14th or the 15th. no point paying it a week early and have the money sit in their bank account instead of mine. Hopefully people don't forget, which is why I'm more than happy to have you guys on the stream. I'm hoping. Have you guys got any other appearances on any other YouTube channels coming up that you want to plug while you're here?
We are going to go on the Talking Joe podcast next week, just in the final week of the campaign. and then we were on What's on Joe Mind last week. So we've been trying to kind of keep ourselves out there, to kind of try to remind the GI Joe and Action Force community that, you know, we exist, and we're doing stuff. And also we're releasing kind of imagery and pages from the book by degrees through the campaign as well, to kind of keep people's interest up. So, you know, picking particular weeks, you know, because we have essentially 5 weeks in the campaign, we're focusing every week on a different sub team. So we did Space Force, Q Force. Last week was the Z Force stuff. Next week would be all of the SAS reveals we're going to do. So Brian's lined up some Dio shots and some sample pages. And then the final week of the campaign, because they're the ones everybody loves, we're going to focus on Red Shadows content to, you know, again, remind people that we're there and share that in social media and so on.
Yeah, the Americans go nuts for the Red Shadow stuff, for the Robo. So the amount of American viewers of my channel who've gotten into collecting Action Force since I did my sort of series of videos last year. But the first line they always want to go and collect is the enemy team. You know, they want to get a crack, an action figure. Everyone's chasing a Robo Skull, all that kind of thing. So,
but you know, something really iconic about the Red Shadows that I can even remember it as a kid. Back in the 80s, they stood out, you know, way ahead of the rest of the Action Force characters, and even compared to other toy lines like, you know, Star Wars at the time. They were just so much more iconic than, say, the Empire, the Imperial Stormtroopers, and you know, I love the vintage Star Wars. You know, I collected Star Wars as well, but the Red Shadows was just something really special. The design team at Palitoy hit on something special when they put them together, and maybe it's just that kind of shocking red color. I'm not really, you know, I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but there's a quality about them that they just stand out. You know, even when you see them in the comics and when they make, you know, appearances in kind of even modern era comics, people sit up and take notice. There's just something quite special about them.
Yeah, we've got a guy called Chris Johnson in the chat here. He says he's a Special Weapons Force man himself. Are you guys going to be covering the Special Weapons Force in the book?
We sure are. That's stretch goal number 1. So if we get to hit our first stretch goal, that will unlock the Special Weapons Force section on the book, which will be. I mean, I'll let Paddy kind of talk a little bit about that, because Paddy's written some great bios there.
So for our first stretch goal is to unlock Special Weapons Force. And what we've done there is, we know a particularly talented customizer called Ray Murphy, where if you're in the vintage Palitoy groups on Facebook, you've probably seen his work.
I have,
yeah. I'm sure you have, Tony. He's done, essentially created a Special Weapons Force team for us. So the missing figures, Bombardier, Sniper, Fixer, Lightning, and Boffin. He's created those using the original parts. He's also created all of the vehicles for us. So that was the repainted Vamp, the repainted MMS, and there's another one that I can't remember offhand.
The Black Cannon, I think it was.
Black Cannon, that's it, the attack cannon, yeah. So he has created all those as customs for us, based on the original, you know, the prototype photos and so on that were found in the V&A Museum. And assuming we get that extra 32 pages of content, we're going to do a full photo shoot with those mock-ups. So the Vamp
Toys exclusive reveal.
Wow.
The Special Weapons Force Jeep with Bombardier in the passenger seat at the moment.
That's gorgeous.
So, I mean, the detail, I don't know how well you can see that on the camera, but there's
we can see that very well, yeah.
The jerry cans. I mean, Ray's workmanship on this has been spectacular. I mean, it really has been spectacular. And some of the decals were designed by Ray himself. So they're not just, you know, decals taken off the internet. Like, he's designed a lot of the decals themselves.
Yeah.
If you give me one moment, I'll show you the flash.
Do you want to grab one of the figures, actually, if you've got Fixer or Lightning there, so people can see compared to the prototypes, Brian?
That is a really, really top quality custom. You know, I've done a little bit of customization in the past, but that's next level.
Here we go.
So there.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's all hand painted, I take it.
All hand painted,
including the logos. Is that hand painted?
They're decal.
Might be a water slide decal, but for the logos. Of course, we have. We talk about analog, always exclusive here. Number two, and of course, the number 2 is from the the samples that were dug out by Dave Tree. Those photos, and the number 2 is on Boffin, and those photos they're up on the Blood for the Barn website. So when there was a number 2, it made Ray think, well, there must be a number 1 somewhere. So he came up with his own line for the number 1.
Oh wow! Yeah, that would have been a mail away exclusive in #85 if Palitoy had continued.
So that's just a sneak preview of the Special Weapons Force team, and if we hit the minimum funding goal before a deadline, and we're putting a big push on for Special Weapons Force, we'll be sharing a lot more Special Weapons Force content to really kind of get people psyched for that.
Yeah, very much so. So what I think we'll do is I wouldn't mind sharing a few of the images from the book. I think what I'll bring up first is actually the cover of the book. You want to kind of talk us through, how the cover was all put together. So because this is a beautiful book cover.
That's most of the artwork. This is a composite of artwork from the comics, and most of what you see here was illustrated by Vanyo, or the brothers Vanyo, I should say. Because Vanyo was actually two brothers, one with pencil and one with ink. Typically, with the artists, who drew the art for battle, they penciled and inked themselves. But the Vanyo brothers, because they were like tag teaming it, they were able to get a level of precision and accuracy and detail into their work that I personally feel was way ahead of their contemporaries who were also contributing to the comic at that time. So I went back over through the comics, pulled out these really nice pieces of artwork from Vanyo, and assembled this kind of montage together in Photoshop. There's only one artist in here, or one character that's not a Vanyo sketch, and that's Quarrel on the motorcycle, and that's Gual. Gual is another Spanish artist, and his he works on a couple of stories in the Action Force archive, and his treatment of Quarrel was way ahead of how the other artists kind of interpreted that character. So I thought it was a nice piece, kind of worked it into the image.
You were saying that he was more famous in Spain for doing erotic art, right, Brian?
He was indeed. He would do these kind of like newspaper comic strips that had kind of semi-erotic kind of stories. So that was another kind of side gig that he had. But his comic book art is incredible. And if you ever get a chance to check out the story Codename Tracker, that's a story that features Quarrel and obviously the Z4 Sapper Tracker, and they're going up against a lethal Red Shadow sniper, codename Nightmare, and the artwork in that is phenomenal. He also works on the story The Black Major, which looks at the backstory of the Black Major before he becomes, before he joins the Red Shadows. Shares art credits with Jim Watson on that one.
And we've got a Ray Murphy in the chat here. Is this the Ray Murphy that made this Special Weapons Force custom?
Special Weapons Force Ray Murphy, yeah.
Yep, awesome. Decals are all custom water slides. Great work, Ray. Great work. Fantastic. So I don't want to be overly rude and ask you guys what year you were born or anything like that, but for example, when I look into my YouTube analytics, YouTube will tell you the bulk of the age group of your audience, but in like 5-year brackets. So I sit in that kind of 40 to 45 year. I'm getting closer to 45. Are you guys in that bracket, or are you in the 45 to 50? Or
I'm in the next bracket up, dude, and I'm nearly at the end of that bracket. So
yeah,
72.
I'm a young fella. I'm only 38.
Yeah, okay. We see that the reason I ask is, as much as I was a fan of Palitoy's Action Force when I was a child, and I'm sure we had some Battle Action Force comics in the house, I don't remember reading them because, you know, when the Z Force first came out, I would have been 5 turning 6. No, I wasn't reading comics at that age. I really got into comics more like at age of kind of 8 and 9. So this is one of the things I'm most excited about this book is, you know, because I have that childhood connection to the toys, but not to the comics, but I'm still fascinated by the story and the characters, and I always want to learn more. I'm a sponge for any information about any boys product that came out of Palitoy, really. So, so Brian and Paddy, are you kind of lifelong Action Force fans? Tell us a bit about how it came about in your childhood.
You go first, Paddy, because you're younger.
Yeah, so for me, obviously, as I'm a bit younger, my first exposure to it was actually the Marvel UK Action Force stuff. So after Palitoy had shut up shop, obviously, in 1987, Action Force was relaunched using the Hasbro product, and that's how I got into it, because my brother passed me down the Action Force UK comics, and for my 5th birthday, I got the AWE Striker or All Striker. I don't know, is it AWE or All Striker?
I call it All Striker. Yeah.
I usually call it the All Striker as well. And that was my first G.I. Joe toy. And then from there, it was just a constant thing up until the line finished in, you know, the 1990, 1992, 1993 here in the UK and Ireland. But I had been passed down, as my older brother was about 9 years older than me, and he passed me down a lot of his kind of beater Action Force figures to mix in with my G.I. Joe product. And I would have been passed down battle annuals as opposed to the weekly comics. My brother never got the weekly comics. He actually was made to stop getting comics weekly after he got knocked down by a car when he was reading Battle Action Force crossing the road near our street. So he was reading the comic on his way home, and he walked down to the street, got hit by a car. So my dad stopped him from buying comics anymore. And what they would do at the end of the year is they would buy the annuals. As you know, Tony, they used to do an annual every Christmas. For whatever was popular at the time. So the Battle Action Force annuals are what I remember reading because we had them in the house. So I wasn't familiar with the weekly comic at all until years later when I started collecting G.I. Joe again about 13, 14 years ago, around the time the 25th anniversary came out. And then I started getting into the battle stuff again because, you know, I remembered it as a kid, and for me, they were the same thing, you know, that way where it's all kind of meshes into one together. And Duke is in this, but he's not the same Duke that's in this other, you know, Marvel UK thing. But as a kid, you don't even notice that they're not the same continuity. It's just another, you know, it's just another story to you when you're reading it as an 8 or 9-year-old. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly for me, I had a several year period between like playing with the Palitoy Action Force before I got big into Action Force International Heroes. 1987. I've made videos about it. It was such a influential year of my childhood. But those intervening years, I was into other stuff. Like I remember having, you know, an A-Team Christmas and a Masters of the Universe Christmas. So for me, even though it was called Action Force, when the Action Force International Heroes came out, the card backs were so different. I started reading the comic. I actually thought there was no connection to the original line. And I think by that stage that I must have moved on some of my older Action Force toys to a cousin or something like that. I thought it was two completely different. I mean, they are fairly separate. You're talking about Palitoy and Hasbro, but I didn't make the connection until years later. So what about yourself, Brian? What's your kind of childhood Action Force story?
Well, I mean, I was a big fan of the the British comic scene back in the 70s and the early 80s, before Action Force arrived, there was a lot of war. Like the boys' comics were war comics. You had the Victor, you had Warlord, and they would have been produced by DC Thompson. And then on the on the IPC magazine side, who would have been the big competitor publisher, they had Battle. And I had older cousins, like they would have been, 5, 6, maybe nearly 10 years older than me. And when we would go and visit, my auntie or my grandmother, there would be some of these kind of war comics lying around. And that was my first introduction to comics. So I was familiar with the title Battle, before Action Force was ever associated with it. Where it really kind of resonated with me was I was, playing out in the street one day as a kid, and my neighbor, this other kid, shows up and he's got this action figure. And I had a few Star Wars action figures at the time, but I'd never seen anything like this. This guy was green. He had a removable hat. He had a backpack with a headphone piece. And, and he said, they're free with the comic Battle up in the newsagents. So I didn't wait. I just grabbed my pocket money, jumped on my bike, or a bike, may not have been mine, and straight up to the newsagents, Larry's newsagents on Ballymun Avenue, and went in and paid my whatever it was, 25p, and I got a copy of Battle with the figure, and I bought it for her. But when I got it back, there was an Action Force story in the comic, and that was it. There were loads of great stories in the comic as well, not just the Action Force stories, but it was that first story, the Battle for Ascendancy Island, where Baron Arbor and the Red Shadows take over this island off the coast of South America, and Action Force have to come in and reclaim the island, and rescue the population. But between that story and the other great stories in this action figure, I was now, wow, this is it. I'm now an Action Force fan. And slowly then over, obviously I subscribed to the comic. It was kept in the newsagents for me. I would collect it after school, like on a Thursday, would walk in, I'd pay my few pence, and I'd get my comic with my name, surname written in the corner.
Yep.
And I built up a small collection of Action Force figures. They were harder to get than the Star Wars figures. So, but I did have a couple of nice pieces as a kid growing up. I had the APC, or the ATC, that was my favorite vehicle. And I did have the Z-Force Whirlwind and some of the smaller vehicles like the Lance and the Shaft. And I did get the Night Attack Jeep as well at one point. But my Star Wars collection was always bigger than my action collection, but only because they were trickier to get where I was living.
Yeah. So obviously you're photographing all of these toys now for the book. Do you have, between the two of you, a complete collection of all the toys, or have you got other collectors out there loaning you stuff to be able to photograph everything?
I gave everything I have to Brian, which isn't much. I tend to go for the vehicles. I'm a big Action Force vehicle fan rather than the figures. I think the vehicles in the line are just top notch. So, but I handed two boxes of them there to Brian for photography for book there a few weeks ago. And then I think Brian has what I don't have. Brian tends to have quite a bit of.
Yeah, so I have a lot of figures. So I army build. That's a big part of my sort of collecting focus. I'd army build a lot of figures. So I've got a big Z-Force army. I've got a lot of SAS Force figures. I'm focusing in on Q-Force at the minute, just to kind of to bulk up my sort of, the troopers on that side of it. But between myself and Paddy, we would have most of what we need. But there are a couple of pieces that we don't have, and we're very fortunate in that there's a number of collectors here in Ireland who've been really, really super and really supportive, and they've offered to lend us pieces that we don't have to round out some of the photography. So and if I give a shout out, obviously Ray is Ray Murphy is on the chat there. Yeah. Kevin McCaffrey, another collector who's been really, really generous and supportive. Martin McCanny is another. Again, he's very involved on the Action Force groups on Facebook. You see some of Martin's photos and sketches. So those guys have been super positive and supportive of, and it's with their help that we're really able to bring a more complete visual picture of Action Force, to the table with this book.
That's a very nice segue. So now you're talking about, this sort of this visual picture and army building. So let's take a look at some of your amazing photography here, Brian. I'm going to want to pull. This is one of my favorite images that I've seen so far. This is obviously the Z Force with the battle tank. Some of the troopers there. I do see that. The Z Force captain there is carrying an unusual weapon. What's that weapon he's got in his hand?
That's actually probably a modern era weapon, because I don't have necessarily all the accessories, but I actually do have the M16 that goes with Skip. But for that particular shot, I just wanted him to have something that he could really comfortably hold, and and look fairly, maybe a little bit more exotic than what the rest of the troopers have, for that particular picture. Yeah,
and this is a great photograph. Obviously, how much sort of time goes into photograph? Obviously, there's I'm assuming some Photoshop work here. How much time goes into like a single image like this?
Well, there's no Photoshop work in I'd say about 99% of my images. I try to keep all the effects as kind of practical and in camera as possible. So in this particular shot here, this came together fairly quick. I kind of set up the initial kind of scene with the tank and the figures around it, and then I have some nice explosion effects that I've created, which is with kind of cotton wool. And just lights behind them. So once I had that kind of set up, I just tried a few different camera angles, slightly above, slightly, kind of below looking up. Tried a couple of different lenses, and a lot of the time is actually spent with those kind of camera adjustments, camera angle and lens type. And then once I kind of get a setup that I'm really happy with and comfortable with, then I go in and I find the actual pose on the figures, because they only have 5 points of articulation, so with the exception of Steeler. So it's trying to make them look as sort of dynamic as possible, and to get that sense that they're kind of charging into battle. And then I added a few little extra effects on the explosions to make it look like this kind of a jet stream of a rocket coming down, into that explosion. And that's just done with straws, with kind of, again, they just illuminate with the light that's inside.
Oh wow! Okay. Yeah. So here's another of my. Actually, this might be my favorite image. This one here, I can tell this is all practical. Obviously, the Baron's laboratory. This is a great photograph and really evokes, I suppose, the images that I had in my head when I was a child of what the Baron's lab would kind of look like. Who did you build this set for this photograph?
Yeah, there's a couple of different component or set pieces, I should say. So we have the the floor is just a cut and mat and a piece of black cardboard. And then walls, 2 elements of the wall you see off on the far right hand side is kind of like a rock face, and that's the set piece that I made for the Total Retaliation book, where we did the ninja battle on the cliffs. And then the backdrop with the windows. That's just something that I got. This whole shot came out of an idea to build windows into a wall with somebody on one side looking in at something else. Where we got a takeaway one night from a new takeaway in the town, and they had these big circular lids on the tubs with the rice and noodles. And as soon as I cracked open the tubs, I held up the lid and went, I know what I'm going to do with this. I'm going to make a window. That's the way my brain works. And my family's kind of sitting around the dinner table looking at me as I'm looking at the lid. And I'm just, there's no words coming out of my mouth, but my brain is kind of, and they know we need to keep that because he's going to do something with that, tomorrow. So piece is built. It was like, well, what's going on in the lab? And I've got a couple of Mouton figures that are incomplete, which is most people collectors will have a beater Mouton that has all the head accessories missing. So figured, well, put them in, and I cobble together this thing from other parts that looks like a bed that the Mouton are. And then it's just trying to find accessories for the Red Shadows. So I have this wrench which came with another set that my kids had from when they were kids, and then the actual container with the blood that they're pumping into the Moutons. That's a vintage Action Man accessory that came with the first aid kit, I think.
Yeah, with the first medic, I recognise that. Yeah. A world made of cardboard. Thank you very much for the super chat. He says, which Action Force figures did you find had the most play value? The 5-point articulation or the fully posable Hasbro ones? I don't know if he's asking me, or I think he's asking you guys. But what do you think, Brian?
Well, I was always a fan of the 5 POA figures. I found my G.I. Joe figures, they were Action Force, but they were the Hasbro Action Force Series 3. I probably broke every crotch and every thumb on those figures, and I could never get a proper, two hands hold on their guns. Whereas with the 5 POA figures from Palitoy, they were made so that you could hold a gun with 2 hands. So they always worked. They're always much easier to play with. So I could visualize with them what I wanted to do much easier than with the Joe figures. But I did love the Hasbro figures as well. They were great. I loved all the different accessory combos with them, and I did, screw them, take the screw out of the back and swap arms and legs, and have great fun kind of customizing those figures. So it's a different kind of value with them. But the hand, I broke every single thumb trying to get the guns into those hands.
Yeah. So when I was a child, I had. Sorry, go ahead, Paddy.
I was going to say I have a lot of love for the 5 POA stuff, just because it's a lot more durable than the O-ring kind of construction. I know as a kid, like half my O-ring figures ended up snapping the O-rings because you were playing with them all the time. Whereas you don't have that problem with the Palitoy stuff. It's bulletproof practically,
Yeah, absolutely. And when you talk about play value, I'm trying to think which of the fully articulated figures I had when I was a child. I had Red Laser and I had Quarrel. I think they were the only two, because obviously I had the Laser Exterminator and the motorcycle, but all the other figures I had were the 5 POA. But the figure I got the most play value out of, hands down, was the very first figure I ever got, and that was the Orange Frogman from Series 1. My mum bought that for me from a newsagent. She'd picked up her pay packet, which back in those days, was the brown envelope, and there was a few coins left over. Went into the newsagents, and she actually remembers this more than I do. She came up to visit me last year. Because my mum, she lives a couple of hours away, as in a couple of hours on a plane. So she comes up to visit every year. When she came up last year, I don't think she'd seen the collection for a while, so she wanted to go up and have a look around. And between the last time she'd seen the collection and this most recent visit, I had reacquired the Orange Frogman. And she instantly made a beeline for this figure. She's like, I remember buying you that when you were about 5 years old and going into this newsagent's. And I almost had a tantrum. I didn't want to go home. And I think it was the first time I'd probably ever seen Action Force. And I came home with the Orange Frogman figure with obviously the scuba tanks and the removable flippers. And she said that one figure I just played with for weeks and weeks and weeks. It was my go-to, bath time toy. And so if you want to talk about play value, to me, it made no difference about the amount of articulation. That's just a toy that I found visually arresting. I enjoyed it. I loved Frogman. Hours and hours of fun with that figure. It's a personal favorite now. And speaking of which, does your book cover the 1982, or is it more the different teams, obviously, because the 1982 Action Force range is not really covered in the Battle Action Force comic. So I was interested to know about that.
No, it is. We do cover it off. We cover off for the writing of the book. What I've done is I've broken it down into kind of series of articles so that Brian can space them out through the book. So we're going to have an article on kind of development of Action Man, and the link that came in there between Hasbro and Palitoy, which later led to Palitoy using the G.I. Joe product. I have a kind of history of the development of the line, and then I break down the entire series going year by year by year in terms of what was released. So we cover off Series 1 there. We cover off Series 2, obviously, and then Series 3, based on the years they were released. And then we do character profiles for all of the Series 2 characters as they were presented in Battle Action Force. So based on the data files and so on, and the comic stories from Battle. So all of every Z-Force character gets a page, every Red Shadow character gets a page in the book, and then all the rest of the teams as well. And that's kind of what we've been revealing mostly in the last couple of weeks is those character profiles for the Series 2. But we do make sure to cover Series 1, and Series 3 is touched on, although we're not going to do individual pages for those Series 3 characters unless we get that stretch goal at the end, the €53,000 stretch goal, just because in terms of space in the book, really, we really wanted to focus on. I think our both of our personal preference for those Palitoy years is the Series 2 stuff, but we're not ignoring by any means the Series 1 or Series 3. They will be covered off in full in the book as well.
Excellent. We've got a super chat here from my friend Thomas at Live Convo Reviews. Thank you very much. He just says full force. Full Force, that was an expression that came around with like the Hasbro era of Action Force. It wasn't part of the Palitoy era, was it? It really came. I remember seeing it in the TV commercials in '87.
It was used to redub the Yo-Jo in the dubbed cartoons that came later. That's right. Yeah. Yes,
those overdubs are hilarious. If you haven't seen it, there's a video of like all of the Action Force overdubs, and it's over on the Full Force podcast YouTube channel, where they, obviously Sergeant Slaughter became Sergeant Slam, all that kind of thing. So I find it hilarious watching that, how they chop and change from an American voiceover artist to then a brief bit of a British voiceover artist and back again, which I never noticed when I was a child.
That was a real thing in that era. We get say movies, American movies that would have a lot of swear words in them, and they would be redubbed, but with instead of, it's like "forget you" was I'm not going to drop any F-bombs on the live stream, but that was the classic replacement for the F word, "forget you," and it would be dropped in with somebody trying to mimic an American accent really badly. It was kind of the done thing at the time, bad overdubs, and unfortunately, the G.I. Joe cartoons didn't fare any better than the movies.
Yes, yeah. We had a comment in the chat a little bit before. One of the audience is asking, where can they find the Kickstarter, all that kind of thing. So again, for anyone who joined late, I'm here with the writer and the photographer of a new Action Force book called Total Action Force: The Battle Years. It's very hopefully going to get funded through a Kickstarter campaign. Anyone who wants to secure their own copy of the book, the link to the Kickstarter is in the description of this video below. So yeah, for anyone who joined late, that's where you need to go. So we've been going for about 45 minutes, so we've still got a little bit of time to chat. What I'd really like to do, to try and entice a bit more of the audience, is show a little bit more of your photography, if that's all right, Brian.
Yeah, thank you.
So I've got a bit of a soft spot for the Q-Force. So I've got here this bit of a sort of a Q-Force base, and this kind of, there's something about this that makes me think of like the 60s James Bond movies kind of thing. Is this inside a volcano or something?
Well, where I got the inspiration for this was one of the last stories that runs in Battle Action Force is Operation Deep Cover. And the whole premise of the story is that Zartan is undercover as a kind of a UN representative, and he's trying to find the location of Action Force's secret base, which is called Ground Zero. And while that story was kind of running, while that strip was running in the weekly comics, you would get these little features each week, separate from the story, that gave you a little bit of information about Ground Zero. And one of the things they touched on was the subterranean harbor in the ground, which is made up part of kind of the Ground Zero base. So when I was putting this shot together, I mean, I love Q-Force. It is a kind of a collecting focus for me at the moment. So I wanted to build, a base that had to look kind of underground, had to look, a little bit industrial, like there was equipment and gear there that you would expect to find in a harbor. And then, of course, fully populated with with Q-Force characters. And so that's where it came out of. And then, using things like, say, the cling film for the water effects. Again, that's something that would have been done on some of the early photography packaging that would have been associated with the Q-Force vehicles. I wanted to give a bit of a nod back to that as well.
Yeah, I actually tried to use that cling film trick in my video where I covered the Q-Force, and I don't feel I pulled it off anywhere near as well as you did. A World Made of Cardboard, thank you very much for the super chat. He said, did they redub the G.I. Joe PSAs in the Action Force cartoons? I don't remember having any of the PSAs in the Action Force cartoons, did we?
No, they were usually cut out. So the Action Force redubs were never actually shown on television here. They were all released on video cassette. You get a video for £30 that had like 3 episodes on it. So I think they were all cut from my memory. Certainly, I don't remember seeing them until much later.
No, absolutely. Another image I want to show here to give people kind of an idea of what the inside of the books looks like. So we've got here, there's this beautiful image of the Black Major and a few of the Red Shadows, but then also a bit of a write-up about Skip. So, Paddy, have you written these up?
Yeah, so any of the pages we've shown of the characters are my work. Is my work in the writing. Yeah. So again, all the bios are based on what was contained in the comics. Most of the characters obviously got a biography page in the comic originally.
Yes.
And so I have essentially some of those pages, some of those bios though are very, very short. Like some characters literally get 3 or 4 sentences. So what I've done is I've expanded a lot of those using, snippets from different stories that they were in and so on. And then obviously the page has a shot of the figure that Brian's taken, and then a piece of artwork from the comics. Now, one thing we should probably stress is the comics artwork and the use of the Action Force and so on is actually fully licensed by Rebellion Comics, who own the copyright to the artwork, and then Hasbro as well. So we had intended for the campaign to go live a little bit earlier in the year, but then we decided, well, we probably should get permission to do this. Just because we were using the comics art, and we kind of thought, well, just make sure we don't get in any trouble. Let's go reach out to the copyright holders. So we reached out to Rebellion Comics, who your viewers will probably know as the publisher of 2000 AD, Judge Dredd and those characters. They purchased the rights to IPC's artwork library a few years back, and so they own the reprint, the physical artwork, and the right to use that. And then Hasbro obviously owned the IP. So Rebellion basically said, we will allow you to license the imagery you want for the book, but you have to get Hasbro's permission as well. So that took a little bit of getting to get in terms of reaching out to Hasbro to find the right person to sign off on it. I genuinely think they forgot that they owned Action Force, just based on the reaction we got. They're like, Action who? What's that? But eventually we found somebody in the UK who's like, oh yeah, we do own that. And they graciously signed off and let us use, we kind of explained what we're doing. It's a fan-run project. We're not going to be making any money out of this. It's a limited run item. We're only planning to print the number of copies we need to fulfill the Kickstarter. We're not going to be doing a second print run, and we're not allowed to, technically. And we also have to keep the numbers. We kind of told them, look, this is going to be a low print run. This isn't going to be 1,000 copies. This is, if we're madly successful, insanely successful, we might get 400 or 500 backers. We made that, because that's what other books of similar, or similar books have made. So Rebellion and Hasbro were like, okay, well, that's okay then. So, the book is the first licensed Action Force product in 35 years, probably, so it's official, which I think is amazing. Like for something like this, that we've, got permission to use this stuff is it's unprecedented, so that's why I think the book and then acknowledging the campaign is kind of really important as well.
Yeah. I know I certainly had a lot of trouble when I was putting out my Story of Action Man DVD. I went to Hasbro to get permit. I wish I had have started a lot sooner in the process. I approached them kind of as the film was getting finished and I was getting ready to print it onto DVDs before I could sell it. And I reached out to Hasbro and I went round and round in circles for like 6 to 8 months with Hasbro UK. And eventually gave up and went to Hasbro in Australia because I was obviously based over here. And that they were much easier to deal with. The only thing that they stipulated to me was that I had to show Action Man as he was sold. Back in the day, I couldn't show customs, which I thought was a really odd thing because customs are different. I could go and make a video about Action Man customs and I shouldn't need any permission at all. So unfortunately, there was a sequence near the end of the film that I actually had to chop out in the DVD with a friend of mine that's showing a whole heap of his different customs. So that was a real shame.
Okay.
Stiff Kittens Reviews, thank you very much for the super chat. It says, any of you have the full Panini sticker album? Will there ever be a full reprint of the comic? I've got the Action Man Panini sticker album, but not. Was there an Action Force one? I don't remember.
I don't recall an Action Force one. Certainly the Action Man one I remember, specifically the one where you've got the paratrooper on the front cover wearing the snowsuit.
That's the one I've got, yeah.
I love that, and I did collect those stickers. I never completed it, unfortunately, in terms of the collection. I maybe had about 50% of the stickers in there, but I don't have it anymore. I'm sad to say. I would love to have that back in my collection.
I've got a stack of unopened sticker packets for that book as well, about that thick.
Yeah.
And I've actually, the stack was a lot bigger when I bought it, and I started opening them up. I was like, I want to keep obviously a number of the sticker packs still sealed, but I started opening them up to try and fill the book. And after I'd opened up probably 10 packets, I was getting so many duplicates. I was like, no, this is going to be a waste of time. I could open up every single one of these packets and still not fill it. So I put a few of the stickers in and then gave up. And I do like the fact that I've got this stack of the original Panini stickers still sealed. So a quirky little piece in the collection that I really enjoy.
Just in terms of part of that question, Tony, do we think that the Action Force comics will ever be reproduced or reprinted? Well, I mean, as Paddy kind of said it there earlier, this is going to be the first time that any of that comic artwork has been reprinted since it was first published back in the 1980s. And I think that's a real big kind of plus for anyone who backs this and gets to own a copy of the book. You're going to have that artwork in there. It won't be in the form that it appeared in, like, it's not the full stories, it's just panels from the different stories. But in terms of ever seeing the Action Force comics reprinted, it's not out of the question. I think Rebellion, they know what they have. They're very, protective of what they have. They're familiar with Action Force and all that great artwork and stories. They are slowly going back through their archives and reissuing a lot of stuff. So it's not something I would root. We could be waiting a while before we see the full Action Force strips in print again.
Yeah, I think they're kind of it was funny, our first couple of emails with them, they were kind of reticent about, well, are you sure anybody will want this? They weren't sure if there was a market. They came out straight ahead and said, we don't know if there's a market for this. Why are you bothering? And we kind of said, well, look, we're fans of of the franchise. This is an important thing to talk about. You know, it's 40 years now since the line was launched, and you know, there's never been kind of like an oral history of the toys, which, you know, they're a pretty big deal. You know, there's still Action Force characters showing up in the comics today, in a Real American Hero comic, you know, written by Larry Hama and so on. So there is we figured there was an audience for this. Now I don't know if it's a big enough audience for them to justify, you know, printing them, as, you know, printing anything is hugely expensive, and someone like Rebellion's not going to touch it unless they know that there's a market out there. So I think because this is a fan project and they know we're not doing it for profit or anything like that, they're like, well, okay, you go do it, and if you succeed, great, and we'll take a licensing fee, and if you don't, well, it's not the end of the world. At least you've done some market research for us, you know. I do think this is effectively being market research for Rebellion. I think if we can get a decent response to this, you know, maybe we can knock on some doors and ask, you know, in a year or two's time, well, look, we sold 1,000, you know, 500 copies of this. There is a market for a reprint. So we'll see. You know, I do think, you know, this can be a bit of market research for them to say, look, there is a dedicated fan base out there who will pay for, you know, reprints and so on. So fingers crossed.
That would be amazing. That would be brilliant if you could make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was looking at your Kickstarter yesterday, and it's you know, you're well over halfway backed. It looks as though, from the numbers I was looking at, you need around 200 backers for it to be fully funded. Is that right?
Yeah, I think 220 is what I've been thinking. Yeah, 220, 225. And,
yeah.
You know,
and listening to what you just said before, Paddy, that, you know, there won't be a second print run. It'll, you know, you are literally gonna, wherever the Kickstarter ends and the amount of backers, that's the amount, the number of books that you're going to print. So for anyone in the audience, if you want your opportunity to secure this book for your own Action Force collection, head over to the Kickstarter. The link is in the description of this video, because if you don't get it within the next, 12 days, if you don't back it in the next 12 days, you're going to miss out. All right, guys. Well, we're coming up on an hour, so thank you so much for taking the time to join me. I know it's again, I know it's very late there. Have you got anything you'd like to say to the audience before I move on to my what's in the box segment of the show kind of thing?
Well,
just to thank everybody. First of all, we need to thank you, Tony, for helping out with the
my pleasure.
You know, your Kickstarter video, I think, has worked wonders for us. Thank you to everybody who's backed it. You know, we're getting a lot of encouragement from people. I'm getting messages on Facebook tonight and everything, people asking about the book and so on. So thanks everybody who's watching for their enthusiasm for the book and everybody who's backed it. Like I said, I do hope we get there. I think it'll be, you know, something special for collectors of the line and people who are interested in the toy line. You know, it's going to be a unique piece of work that's going to be, you know, a nice addition to anybody's Action Force collection, or even anybody who's, you know, even tangentially interested in it. I think you'll find a lot from, you know, learn a lot about the toy design process and the comics process in there as well. So, you know, but yeah, here's hoping in July 3rd we'll be fully funded and can keep continuing to work on the book.
Excellent.
Well, second what Paddy said there in terms of thanking everybody who's back so far and all the great support we've had from so many people. We can't say, you know, it's been really amazing to get that. If you're, you know, looking at the Kickstarter, if this is something that you think, you know, if you have an interest in Action Force, this is going to be a great book to add to your collection, both in terms of preserving the legacy of Action Force and really rounding out that full story from the toy side and the comic side, and most importantly about the toys themselves.
Awesome, thank you very much. Wesley Hendricks, will you be signing the books?
At the basic pledge level just gets you the book shipped to your house, but the next step up, we'll sign the book for you, and the SAS squad leader pledge level will sign the book, and we'll also get a handful of free prints thrown in. Brian is doing special prints featuring each of the different teams for
nice.
And we also have a print from Eric Aranya and Katrina Aranya of Boss Fight Studio, who myself and Brian have both done work for in the past. Eric did a print a couple of years ago for Rollout Roll Call of a recreation of the cover of G.I. Joe issue 1 using all of the Action Force characters.
I'm very familiar.
Eric sold out of that print originally, but when we were planning this campaign, because he's a friend of ours, he's like, "Well, do you want to reprint this print and throw it in as an additional thing for your campaign?" So, at the SES Squad Leader, you get a signed copy of the book, you get Eric's print, Eric and Katrina Aranya's print, and then 4 of prints of Brian's of various diorama images for the book as well. So,
yeah. And what size are those prints?
Eric's poster is A3. Eric and Katrina's poster is A3.
Nice.
And then the actual team photos, Force photos, they're 8 by 10 prints.
Yeah, excellent. It's really good when these Kickstarters, not only when they get funded, but you can unlock some of the other stretch goals as well. So look, guys,
we should probably talk about our final stretch goal, which is probably not going to happen, but is to get Ian Kennedy to do a new cover for the book as well.
Wow.
So that's something we really love to get that done. Just to get Ian Kennedy to do a new Action Force cover, it would be amazing.
Yeah. And how many backers do you need to get that stretch goal?
That's going to be close to 500 backers.
That is. If we sell every book we told Rebellion we would sell in a dream world, we will get that stretch goal. But we wanted to have something there that was big, shoot for the moon just in case. And look, Ian Kennedy is still working, still taking commissions, still doing beautiful art. And we thought, well, why not? Get a legendary artist like him to do a cover for us would be a dream come true. But like I said, I don't know if we'd make it, but we wanted to have it there just in case we succeeded beyond all of our wildest dreams.
Yes, yeah, very much so. Well, look, guys, thank you for joining me. Best of luck with the Kickstarter. I hope it goes really, really well. And one final time for anyone who needs the link to the Kickstarter, it's in the description below. Paddy, thanks for taking the time. Brian, thanks for taking the time. I always enjoy talking Action Force, particularly with like-minded fans. So really appreciate you guys coming on the show, and yeah, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you so much.
No worries. All right, I'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, guys. It's now the part of the show where we're going to do what's in the box. We've got a number of donations here. We've got a donation from Brendan Haley, my buddy Brendan in Queensland. We've got a donation from Jonathan Sorensen, who is a patron of the channel who also happens to live down in Perth. I think he's the only Perth-based patron of the channel. And finally, we've got a box to go with the Action Force theme. We've got a box down here from Action Force superfan George Aitken. So obviously I need to move some of this Action Force stuff out of the way. Whoops. We'll get the Robo Skull moved. How was everyone's weekend? I hope you all had a good weekend. I want to say a quick happy birthday to my buddy Sal from... That's all right. That wasn't a toy that fell over. I want to say a quick hello to my buddy Sal from 2 Cents Toys. It's his birthday today. Yeah, today. It's tomorrow in Australia, but happy birthday, Sal from 2 Cents Toys. We'll get the Z-Force Battle Tank moved. And what box have we got first? So this box is from Brendan Haley, my buddy Brendan. Brendan, I did see you in the chat earlier. I'm not sure if you're still here or not, but I hope everything's going well under the circumstances, Brendan. And as always, mate, you need anything, you just reach out to me, flick me a text, give me a call. I'm always here to listen. So, all right, what have we got in here? I haven't had a chance to say hello to many people in the chat. So we've got Keith Holmesley here, Antonio Viscotis, Jesse. Obviously, I know Michael Schaefer's here. He's working in the background. Tim Hayes, Nicholas Dickens. Good to see you all. What is... Oh, wow. Keith Knight, it's been a great weekend here. New kittens and West Ham won today. I saw the photos of the new kittens, Keith. I'm looking forward to being able to show Gracie later. Oh, we've got some vintage 3 3/4 inch Mego Star Trek action figures. Very nice. Dr. McCoy. Thank you, Brendan. You know, the only Mego Star Trek stuff I had, I'm talking about motion picture stuff. When I was a child, I had the 12-inch Captain Kirk from Star Trek the Motion Picture. What have we got? Whoa. Oh, wow. This is interesting. Got some A-Team stuff here. I don't think I've ever seen a piece like this before. This is a vintage 1983 A-Team. It's like a manila folder. Look at that. How awesome is that? Thank you, Brendan. That's a really, really interesting piece. I've never, ever seen this before. Wolfie762 says those 3 3/4 inch aliens are flipping hard to find. Yeah, from the Star Trek line, they definitely are. Oh. Wow. Wow. And how topical is this? This is a Battle Action Force holiday special. But this is an Australian print of the magazine. I wonder if Brian and Paddy are still watching. I've never seen this before, and it's got on the bottom. It's got the price tag saying Australia $1.50, New Zealand $1.80, and Malaysia $4.25. This is not a UK Battle Action Force. This is very, very unusual. Tim Ward, see if your son wants to take it with him to school. What, the A-Team folder? I don't think he would. I don't think he knows who the A-Team are. Wow, and this is from like Series 3 when they started fighting Cobra instead of the Red Shadows. Very interesting. Oh wow, we've got a full color spread near the middle here, showing a whole heap of the action figures from that wave. Charlie's War. I seem to remember reading this comic. This is very nice. Thank you very much, Brendan. This is a really unusual piece that I'm very, very pleased to add to the collection. Sorry, I just hit the microphone there. Brian Hickey saying, "Oh no, he did have that as a kid. He remembers owning that as a kid. Yet this one, Brian, does not have a UK price. It does 65p. I'm sorry. I just saw the Australia bit at the bottom and thought it was an Australia only one, but it does have 65p on there. Very interesting. And we have here, I know what this is already. It's an Action Man rifle rack. Very cool. You need to get some SLRs and stuff. vintage Action Man rifle rack with an unbroken hinge. You see a lot of these around. They've always got the hinges broken and the second leg broken off. But thank you very much, Brendan. Is there anything else in here? I hope I didn't miss anything from that box. If I did, Brendan, just flick me a message, let me know. All right, we've got a box here from Jonathan Sorensen. Jonathan Sorensen, you'll may remember, is the patron supporter who sent me the Sorceress from Motu Origins Castle Grayskull. He picked up the Castle Grayskull for himself. He didn't want the Sorceress figure. He knew I wanted the figure and didn't want the castle. But this is a much, much bigger box than what he sent last time. What's in here? Analog Toy. Patrick Lennon, thanks everyone for listening to us rabbit on about Action Force for an hour. Paddy, a lot of the people who actually come to this channel, they come here to listen to people rabbit on about Action Force, so it's all good, my man. All right. Some packing here. Just while I'm getting this unwrapped, guys, a quick reminder. Tomorrow night at 8 p.m. US Eastern Standard Time, I will be appearing for the first time ever on my buddy Sal's channel, 2 Cents Toys, for a live kind of conversation. This is going to be episode 3 in a series that Sal's doing called The Way I Played, where we're talking a little bit about, psychology when we were children, not psychology, but we're discussing how we played with different toys and stuff like that. I'm really, really looking forward to the chat, and I'm going to keep promoting it as much as I can. So, okay, what do we have? We have a note. Clockman040 at Analog Toys. Hey, Tony, just got my copy of your article. Great stuff. Still need the side view of the Zargon sculpts. Remember, I am Joey on Patreon. I do remember Clockman. I've got to sort that out for you. I've got to go take those photographs. I'll try and get that done today. And a world made of cardboard. Thank you very much for the super chat. It says, have you seen Retro Blasting's final faction review? What do you think of the toy line? I have seen that. I'm a patron of the Retro Blasting YouTube channel, so all the patrons get to see their videos 24 hours early. So I watched it before its kind of public release. Great video as always. I thought they were very interesting. Not something I will be collecting, but it just goes to show that there are some companies out there who can still make affordable toys, who can actually get them to retail, and have them stocked in a physical store, unlike a lot of the other, toys that all us collectors keep complaining about these days that we can't find anywhere. All these people on the hunt for major bloods at the moment. All right, we've got a note here. I can get it. What is this? Very nice. It says, hi, Tony, the Analog Toys man. Here are some bits and bobs to muck about with. The shiny things are post-2000 knockoffs, but good quality ones with chrome and die casts. Number 4 or 5 are present. Another left out is a broke beyond repair. Also some random stuff that you are now stuck with. Enjoy, John Sorensen in Perth, and he's finished it with a little Batman logo. So thank you very much, Johnny. And we have here, interesting. We've got here a bunch of like 1/6 scale accessories. Very cool. Got a machine gun of sorts. This would be good for customizing. There's a miniature like 1/6 scale book here that you could use. The book's actually titled The Sexy Dictionary, but I think I might paint over and customize that. That could make a very good kind of, I don't know, like a Bible for a World War II soldier or something like that. Very nice. We have a camera, binoculars, water bottle. Whoops. Lots of cool little accessories. Thank you very much, John. I have to move the box, I think. What else do we have here? Okay. This thing is like a box inside a box. That's right, Joseph. You never have too many accessories. And you can never have too many plastic storage tubs either. So, Wolfie762 says you could customize that little book to be a book on action figure collecting held by an action figure. So, okay. First of I know what this is. Thank you so much, John. Thank you. I was talking about this a while ago. Where was I talking about this? May have been on the Retro Talk on the Palace on the Retrobusting Patreon a few weeks back. I was talking about a documentary TV series. Ross Kemp in Afghanistan. He's done a number of these series. I owned the first series, which is by far the best. They're all really, really good series, but I own series 1 is by far the best. I owned it for a long time, and now I can't find it. I actually think I've loaned it to a friend so they can watch it, and I never got it back. Really looking forward to watching that again. A World Made of Cardboard. Thank you very much for the super chat. It says, just joined your Patreon. Love your work. Thank you, man, and thank you for supporting the channel on Patreon. I do really try to make a concerted effort to offer Patreon, the supporters on Patreon, a lot of additional content. Actually, if I'm perfectly honest, my priorities have really switched to Patreon, and always trying to offer additional content for the Patreon. That's my priority above getting another video out for YouTube. But there will be another fully produced YouTube video coming in the next couple of days. What have we got here? What did he say in that note? The shiny things are post-2000 knockoffs, but good quality. We've got here instructions and accessories for a Grimlock and paperwork for Dinobot. So Swoop. Snarl. We've got some Transformers accessories here, like Dinobot Transformer accessories. Wow. John. Yes, Plockman 040. Me, Grimlock. Holy crap. We got Transformers. Happy Accident says just backed the Action Force book on Kickstarter. Thanks at Analog Toys for spotlighting the project. My pleasure. My pleasure. I'm always trying to do what I can to support the collecting community, and even if it's just from a perspective of awareness of some of the stuff that's out there. I don't want you guys to miss out. Jody says, love the Dinobots. Look, I'm not everyone knows I'm not a huge Transformers fan. I prefer the toys. It's more the cartoon I didn't like. But I do have a thing for Dinobots. And wow, John. So he said in his letter that they were knockoffs. I don't think these are knockoffs. I think these are reissues. Because these are... This is Takara on there. Man, these are in really nice condition. I don't remember that guy's name. What do we have here? Johnny says they are knockoffs from Stolen Molds. Okay. They're good quality knockoffs. Gojatron, thank you. That's Sludge. That's Sludge. This, I believe, is Snarl. Yep. Man, these are nice. These are nice knockoffs. I believe that's Snarl. Yes, yes, yes. This is the one I had when I was a child. This is the only other Transformer that I remember owning when I was a child, beyond Optimus Prime and Megatron. And my favourite, it's Slag. Because the Triceratops is my favourite dinosaur. Wow. Look at that. Very nice. Jody says we never got Swoop here in the Netherlands. Jody, are you talking about back in the day with Hasbro, or are you talking about with these knockoffs? Michael Schaefer says Slag was his favourite of all the personalities. I didn't become familiar with the personalities until later on in life, but I didn't watch the cartoon very much. Ah, this is... We've got a small Bandai one here. A small jet plane. Very cool. It's a Bandai 1985, Japan. Nice. All right, Johnny, you packed a lot into this. GoBots. Thank you, Joseph. What is this dude? This is not a Transformer. Jody, thank you. That's Leader 1 from GoBots. Thank you for the education. I was not aware. Oh, I don't know if you were in cahoots with Brendan, but we've got some Star Trek here. We have one of the Mego re-releases of Captain Kirk from Wrath of Khan, and he's got his phaser in a separate baggie. It's a pretty nice. It's a pretty nice sculpt. Are you going to start getting me collecting loads of these Mego re-releases? I know Michael Schaefer's a big fan. Yes, Admiral on the Bridge, Michael Schaefer. All right, I've got one more thing in this. Looks like one more thing in this parcel here, and this is another Transformer. So we got Sludge, Snarl, Slag, and Grimlock, yes. We got Grimlock. Awesome. I think Swoop's the only one not here. And I think he was saying 4 of 5 are present. Another one left out as it is broke beyond repair. Okay, so Swoop even in the original line was very fragile. Check out Grimlock. What an awesome figure. For Johnny says, for anyone watching, there is no Swoop as he broke in the same way my childhood one did. Bummer. Yeah, the childhood ones were fragile, and obviously these repo ones, if they're exactly the same, or these knockoff ones, I should say. What an awesome set of Transformers. I'm so happy to have this Slag now in the collection. Yes, Gojatron, I've got a proper Transformers collection now. Thank you. Daniel Dorian, these are knockoff re-releases from post 2000, but very high quality knockoffs. I'm looking forward to actually educating myself on how to transform these guys. But I'm probably going to display them in this mode, in the dinosaur mode. That's the way I always like to display these guys. So thank you very much, Johnny. I really appreciate it. But do I have enough room? I hope so, George. I hope I have enough room. All right, and speaking of George, we've now got a box here from George Aitken, if I can move all this packing out of the way. There will be a Patreon-only live stream after this main show. I'll have a break for like 15, 20 minutes or something, get myself a cup of tea, and then come back in, and we'll do a Patreon-only live stream where we just have a casual chat with you guys. So, all right, George. Do I need a bigger table? Do I? I can move some of this stuff out of the way. There's actually a table in front down here. Let's see here. Move the microphone. Okay. Auxiliary table engaged, yes. All right. Thank you very much, George, for this big box. I need to just cut off my home address there. I remember one of the last boxes you sent me, George. I accidentally showed everyone your address, so I just want to double check. There's no address on there. Good. Hassles. George has sent me a family bag of Frazzles. Last time you sent these, George, they did not last more than a couple of hours between me and my son. We demolished them. Whoa. George. It's a Cobra water moccasin. Wow. Complete with copperhead. How cool is this? George, thank you. Man, that's a nice toy. Got the Copperhead action figure. Thank you very much, George. Thank you very much. Going to go to my Action Force collection. We also have read the letter from George. Where's the letter? You're going to make me have a stroke. Oh. I'm going to get emotional. Hello, Tony. George from Glasgow here. Congratulations on reaching 30,000 subscribers. Thank you very much. The following item was donated by patrons and fans, with Jody setting it up with thanks to Scuba Pete, Jody, Chris Miwa, Tim Hayes, Michael Schaefer, Jeff Barker, Keith Hamesley, Antonio Viscodis. The missing or broken items have been purchased and are on their way separately. The rest of the money was donated to the Anzac charity. P.S. Enjoy the crisps. Yours, the most modest man in the universe. Guys, I can't believe, for those in the audience who are not part of this incredible scheme, you don't know what's down there. You know, the best thing that I've seen happen with this community, particularly over like the last 12 months, is that now I know that you guys are sending each other toys and stuff like we used to do in the playground when we were kids, like these true friends. You know, I know George has been very generous with this channel, but he's also sent stuff to Scuba Pete. Joseph sent a completely fully restored Rattler to Michael Schaefer the other day. You guys are sending each other stuff, you know. It's just amazing, and this has blown my mind. Okay. Prawn cocktail flavored skips. Scuba Pete, I'm not tearing up. You are. It's allergies. You might have allergies. I'm just sincerely touched, man. I'll wear my heart on my sleeve. You guys nearly had me in tears. I can't believe what I'm looking at. Right, the audience here. We love you. Get over it. Open it up. Oh. Straight and to the point, Mr. Schaefer. Thank you. Thank you for being on the crew. Okay, this is all right. This is the missile and the fins for the back of this. So this is a complete well, my mind went blank. A water moccasin. Holy shit! We've got an 18 piece here, but I've got to get this out. I have to get this out. Holy damn. It's the Mauler. Wow. Wow. I said in my action for Scuba Pete, Jody hatched this evil. It's not an evil plan. I said in my Action Force International Heroes video that I doubt I would ever collect the entire 1987 line, because that line includes the Mauler tank, which is very difficult and expensive to get on its own. But in addition, the driver is very, very hard to get. And I see in here, George Atkins says new wheels are in the box. Yeah, so we've got a broken wheel here, but I can see there's a lot of accessories down here. And George is saying there's more wheels in the box. I'm really looking forward to restoring this particular toy, seeing if I can get it running under its battery power. So we have. So here's a funny story. So we've got the instructions. We've got heavy metal. We've got the driver. Jody says, special thanks to George for acquiring it as well as getting spare parts, and special thanks to Scuba for getting more parts. Yeah, so we've got some replacement wheels here, so I can do a repair. Wow, it's got a lot of the accessories here. So it's got, as you know, this toy came with a lot of easily lost accessories, like the smoke launchers. I think they go on the side there. We've got the spare wheel that goes on the back. Antenna. Scuba Pete says, new side skirt and mud flaps are on the way. Thank you very much. And we've got the original instructions here. The instructions say G.I. Joe on them, but you know what I really, really like about this Mauler is if you see on the stickers, it's an Action Force one. Exactly the same toy, just different decals. That just makes it extra special. But the interesting thing I wanted to mention is the guys have sent me a reproduction tow cable. It's the most easily lost part or most easily broken part. You know, the funny thing is, guys, and it's actually here on the table, I purchased an original tow rope off eBay. I paid like $70 for this tow rope for the SAS Wolverine, and it was advertised on eBay as a genuine G.I. Joe Wolverine tow rope. And then when it arrived, I went, it's the wrong color. It's actually for the Mauler. So this is for the Mauler, and it's here on the table with the Wolverine. That's awesome. That's so awesome. We've also got here, this is from George. Man, this is an original Grunt action figure. A world made of cardboard. This is why I love this community. And let me be very careful how I say this. This is why I love this community as well. Not because you guys send me stuff, because I know you send each other stuff. Just lately, we've had a huge influx of new patrons. Guys, you are in for an amazing experience here. If you're new to Patreon and you haven't already checked out the community tab, check out the community tab. All the different patrons go on there. They show photos of their new acquisitions and stuff like that. But also, like, I've sent stuff to patrons before. Just the other day, if you remember that video I made about not too long ago about the click and play kind of diorama pieces, and I had purchased the black like little bird attack helicopter and showed in that video it kind of how it could easily be customized for Action Force SAS figures. I literally purchased that because I found it locally and I wanted to put it in a video, but I'm so kind of restricted with space that I knew I was never gonna. I didn't have anywhere to put it, and Brendan Haley was like, "Man, I hope I can find one of them in Australia." And I was like, "Done, sent. Don't worry about looking for one, Brendan. I'll give this to you." The Kylie signed autograph that I sent to Retroblasting last week. You know, that's because Michael's my friend, and I wanted to see his reaction on camera. I've watched that opening of that Kylie autograph like 5 times. George Aiken says the other mud flap should be in the box. Yep, yes. Here it is. Here's the other mud flap. That's actually rubberized. That's awesome. Yeah, we've got an original. This is not a straight arm, so this is obviously second wave, but man, this would be one of the earliest G.I. Joe figures I actually own. We've got a complete grunt there in really nice condition. Thank you very, very much. George, Scuba. All things 80s. It says, the stuff I've received in donations recently has made me feel extremely guilty. I can't believe people think highly enough of me to send me things. Well, you know what it is, Dean? And here is me speaking as a viewer of your channel. What you do on YouTube and what Retro Blasting does on YouTube and what 2 Cents Toys does, you bring hours and hours of enjoyable content. I can't sit there and watch the same crap that's on TV that my wife watches. My wife watches the TV and I sit there with my phone on my laptop and just enjoy the content from channels like All Things 80s, Retro Blasting, Toy Polloi, all of you guys. Never underestimate, Dean, what your content does for the wider community, particularly over the last, it's been over a year now that we've been stuck in this kind of worldwide pandemic, and a lot of people have had a hard time, and it's a nice escape. So you keep doing what you do, Dean, and I'm really looking forward to collaborating with you during Iconicon. And if we don't end up on exactly the same panel, because I'm already pretty busy during Iconicon, but if I don't, I would love to have you on a Pallet Talk one day. So we'll see how Iconicon pans out, and if we don't end up on the same panel during Iconicon, we'll definitely have a Pallet Talk after Iconicon. Right, there's some more stuff in this box here. We have I'm going to eat Frazzles for breakfast. We have got a ton of accessories for A-Team, including some of the accessories that go with the tactical van. So we've got the fire hydrant and 2 legs of the detour sign. That's awesome. Never underestimate the power of pop culture. Daniel Dorian says, wasn't even aware what the community tab on Patreon was for. Damn. Yeah, guys, that's just like your own private little social media page. Where every morning I get up and there's more stuff on there where people are posting photographs of new acquisitions, photographs of their collection, all things like that. So Antonio Viscoda says, super happy to be part of this great channel. Been great making friends. I have to head out for the night. Take care all. No worries, man. So Antonio recently went on a toy hunting trip with Scuba Pete. And it's the fact that they've made this connection and actually able to meet in person and go toy hunting together is one of the unexpected benefits of running a YouTube channel like this. George, you also gave me 2 pence. I don't know if you know that was in the box or not. Damn. All right. I need to sincerely thank Jody, George, obviously, Scuba Pete, Chris Miwa, Tim Hayes, Michael Schaefer, Jeff Barker, Keith Holmesley, Antonio Viscodis, and of course, Johnny Sorensen, Brendan Haley, Yes, Jody, I will be doing a restoration vid. Absolutely will be doing a restoration vid. I'm actually thinking I'm going to probably do a restoration vid of those recent mask acquisitions. Just a video showing how to use. I've ordered one of the chrome pens from eBay, just waiting for it to arrive. And then I'm going to, that'll obviously take me a while to do because I need to do, I'm going to disassemble the vehicles, rechrome the individual chrome parts, and then I've got to leave them sitting for a couple of weeks for the chrome to properly cure. So it'll be a while before you get the video. But Jim Largo, thank you very much for the super chat. He says, watching Tony's reaction puts a stupid grin on my face. Nothing on telly can match this kind of fun. Yeah, but much the same for me. Like when Michael opened that Kylie autograph on the last live stream, where he opens up the page and sees it and goes like that. I've rewatched that so many times because it puts a smile on my face. It makes me feel good. I hope the rest of the community enjoy it. This is unbelievable. Wow. Wow. I'm blown away. All right, guys, I need to go and get myself a cup of tea. I have a quick break, and then we'll do a Patreon-only live stream where I might just sit here for an hour or so with you guys and just eat skips and frazzles or something. So thank you once again to my guests, Paddy and Brian, who were on the show earlier on. Thank you to everyone who is on Patreon, is supporting the channel on Patreon. Thank you to everyone who's recently joined Patreon. We've had a big influx of new patrons over the last kind of week and a half, with a number of new subscribers to the YouTube channel as well. For those of you who are not on Patreon, there are 4 different tiers, but for the basic tier of $1 a month, it gets you access to the Patreon-only live stream, where it's not quite as busy as this. I'm able to kind of answer all of your questions in the chat. The link to the Patreon is in the description of the video. It's also just go across to patreon.com and then search for creators, just search Analog Toys. $1 a month gets you access to the Patreon-only live streams, and not just future ones. For $1 a month, you get to go back and see a whole heap of other content. And that's the same for any tier that you join. I think in the last week or so, I've done 2 exclusive unboxing videos for the upper tier patrons, so the $5 and $10 tier patrons. So they've had some exclusive unboxing videos and stuff like that as well. So, all right, looking forward to hanging out with the patrons in about 20 minutes time. I think I need to, I'm going to change the battery in the camera so it doesn't run out. But beyond that, guys, I hope you have a fantastic week. I hope this is a nice end to your weekend. And if I don't see you in the Patreon-only live stream, I'll see you tomorrow night at 8 p.m. on the 2 Cents Toys YouTube channel for a chat with Sal as part of episode 3 of The Way I Played. So, all right, take care for now. And George, I will send you a link to the Patreon-only live stream as well. All right, thank you, George. Thank you, everyone. And I'm going to sign off with the promo reel for Iconicon. I'm going to keep plugging Iconicon in the lead up to it. So, all right, take care, guys, and I'll see you soon. Cheers. Iconicon is the first online event of its kind that brings together your favorite content creators around the globe from across YouTube and beyond for a 5-day convention celebrating 80s pop culture. Combining our crews, we'll be sharing live streams, interviews, podcasts, and fully produced features covering 80s movies, music, toys, comics, cartoons, TV shows, and much, much more. Hosted on YouTube from 7 to 11 July 2021, Iconicon's presenters include Retro Blasting, I Grew Up Star Wars, 2 Cents Toys, the Clobber in Times podcast, Midnight's Edge, Toy Polloi, Ed's Retro Geek Out, and Analog Toys, to name but a few, with special guests including former Palitoy chief toy designer Bob Breakin and legendary comic book artist Tom Feister. For more information regarding the presenters, special guests, and the content schedule, visit the official Iconicon website at www.iconicononline.com and save the date, because you won't want to miss this incredible event. Iconicon 2021. We're crossing the streams.